Hi, this is a non-gameplay stream just because I want to see this tips video, but I thought it'd be nice to have it recorded, just to see all this with me.
You are invincible during the tutorial. Your character cannot die until its life bar is added, which takes the form of red hearts. Don't worry about staying safe or even about smashing stuff to collect things, because very few
Is this AI, is the voice AI generated? Because of the weird cuts on the voice.
collectibles are unlocked during the early stages of the game. You can hunt wildlife about staying safe or even
Oh, by the way, the video is 1.25 speed.
about smashing stuff to collect things, because very few collectibles are unlocked during the early stages of the game. You can hunt wildlife. In your base during the night, you can hunt spiders and fireflies, whilst in the crusading arenas, you can hunt anything from birds to rodents and even fish. You have to be quick, dodging around enemies to catch the creatures before they can escape. That there was a jellyfish who dropped a salmon for some reason. At night here, I catch a spider for meat and a firefly for devotion. Your weapon's reach does not match its animation. The swing animation doesn't give an accurate representation of the actual reach of the weapon itself. Knowing just how far and wide it swings can make combat a lot easier. See
Yeah,
here
maybe I should
how
know
I
that
swipe
Massive
from
Monster.
all the way up here, and it still manages to take out these two blocks. Some also have a pretty broad attack range. You can touch enemies. Fans of classic and retro games may try to avoid enemies out of habit, but in this game you can touch enemies without losing life. You only lose life if they hit you with their variety of their attack. If you get close, then it will prompt an attack, but you don't need to actively avoid enemies as you perhaps would with other similar games. See here how I am rubbing up against this plant thing. Its projectiles hurt, but the creature itself is not inflicting damage. Coincidentally, drop poison attacks on stationary enemies, and you can leave them to fester while you dispatch the other enemies. Enemies can be stun-locked. You are going to see enemies being stunned by various in-game attacks. It often occurs after heavy attacks or curses. However, you can also stun-lock enemies. The phrase was popularized by lovers of the From Software games, and it is where you attack and stagger an enemy so frequently that they never have the chance to fight back. In other words, you can hit and stagger enemies in a way that doesn't allow them to retaliate. It is one of the advantages of having a fast weapon. By the time they have finished being knocked back, you have already started your next attack. See how this frog didn't have a chance to retaliate before it was destroyed. Try the game modifiers. Go to settings and
also just regular attacks cancel their attacks.
Before it was destroyed. Try the game modifiers. Go to settings and then to accessibility and scroll down to the game modifiers. Enable hold actions should already be activated. I strongly recommend that you deactivate it. The function is there to stop you accidentally agreeing to elements in the game. However, as a more advanced player, holding down the button becomes tedious. Auto-cook means that you queue up your recipes. You press the cook button and the food is created automatically without you having to play the sliding mini-game. Autofish works in a...
Oh, fuck. My mistake, I pressed the numpad and that changed the video thingy. But no auto fixing? Because that minigame is way harder than cooking.
Try active you accidentally agreeing to elements in the game. However, as a more advanced player, holding you press the cook button and the food is created automatically without you having to play the sliding mini-game. Autofish works in a very similar way, where you don't have to play the minigame whenever you want to do some fishing. Stop time on Crusade means that if you take longer than 3 in-game days to complete an arena run, your followers will not start starving or dying from illness while you are crusading. At the beginning of my run, I turned on all of the gaming modifiers to see if they affected trophies or achievements, and they did not. Game modifiers advice. Enable hold actions is good for avoiding mistakes when making selections, but veteran players should probably turn it off. It makes playing the game more efficient. New players should try out the fishing and cooking minigames, but you may find them a little frustrating around halfway through the game, so I can understand why people use
Did you fill the minigames on purpose there? The one on the left?
the auto cook and auto fish functions. The only one I would advise against is the stop time on Crusade. When you turn off time, you lose all the benefits of time passing. It means you don't have a bunch of materials and devotion ready for you when you get back.
True.
Even on extended crusades, you can only take down a maximum of 3 bosses. Advanced players will blow through the crusade arenas before their followers even become hungry. For that reason, I wouldn't recommend you stop time on a crusade. You can whack some projectiles back. Later in the game, the only way to break the armor of some enemies is to whack their projectiles back at them. Luckily, the projectiles move pretty slowly in this game. Hit them back by starting your swing shortly before the projectile hits you. You can revisit rooms. On the top right of your screen is a small map. If you wish, you can backtrack in order to enter the rooms that you haven't visited yet. As you can see, the question marks means that you haven't visited those rooms yet. Even if you reach the chest room, you can still go back to all the other rooms in that arena. The only time that this is not the case is when you visit a boss room, be it through the teleporter or naturally at the end of an arena. Once you are in that room, you are locked.
I really gotta look up Hackett's attacks.
Locked in there. If you find yourself walking down a long corridor, then you are heading towards a boss. Hold a sermon and rituals after recruiting. When you arrive at your base, collect your resources and then indoctrinate your followers before you hold a sermon. This is more meaningful earlier in the game when just 1 or 2 extra sermon attendees may mean the difference between having an upgrade right now and having to wait another day. Try not to hold sermons at night because your followers will miss sleep. You do not have to indoctrinate followers when you first arrive at your base. You can queue them up and have them join later when you need them. Speedrunners, for example, will queue up their followers
Ophelia Nipple?
and only indoctrinate them when they need them to unlock doors. Attack an enemy's spawning spot. When you see portals from which enemies emerge, start attacking the area as the spot. When you see portals from which enemies emerge, start attacking the spawning spot. When you see portals...
Oh, portals. Are those circles accurate? I don't think they are.
From which enemies emerge, start attacking the area as they arrive. You always get the first hit. You can take off a nice chunk of their health before they are able to retaliate. How to fish in the Cult of the Lamb. The game is a little counterintuitive. You start. Dwellers do things without being told. If you speak to one of your followers, you can set orders.
Okay, sorry if you don't know about this, but this is for a Permadeath run I'm looking at.
Do fish function. It will save a lot of time and hassle. Dwellers do things without being told. If you speak to one of your followers, you can set orders. However, you do not have to do this. Your cultists will always find something to do on their own. If you place a construction plan, then your followers will build it. If they have filled up the devotion meter, they may walk away and work in a mine, or water some plants, or make an offering, and so forth. You do not have to micromanage them beyond dealing with them when they are sick, tired, dissenting, or they have a quest they want completing. Don't worry about clearing your base area. During the early game, you are going to see all of those resources around your base, and you are going to want to collect them early. But it is better if you leave them. Within a few hours of playing, your followers will have cleared it all and will be walking around looking for things to do. The only reason you should clear the area yourself is if you want to build a structure in a certain location. Feel free to move and destroy buildings later in the game. Hammers are powerful boss killers. It is all about distance and timing. Don't believe the people who say you should avoid the hammer.
I mean, it clearly does a lot of damage, but yeah, there's a bit of a wind-up.
hammer plus a charged golden fleece plus a few tasty tarot cards, and you have a very powerful boss killer. Take this example here. The golden fleece is charged to 230%, and look at the massive chunk of health the hammer hit takes off. Hammers can be very useful tools if you remember distance and timing. Squash. Don't save relics. Your first instinct may be to save relics for rooms full of enemies and bosses, but there is really no need. Things happen so quickly. Enemies and bosses, but there is really no need. Things happen so quickly and change so rapidly that you may as well use relics.
Oh, that's a relic tutorial. I was like, what? You're fighting Kamek?
At your earliest convenience. Even if you are saving up for a boss fight, there is a good chance your relic will have recharged while you are fighting the battle. Even when it comes to single-use relics, use them in the short term rather than trying to save them. Roll as soon.
Why? No, like, why would you save? Why would you not save the fragile one for a boss?
As a boss fight starts. At some point, you will probably try to take down bosses while taking no damage. Some give you a trophy or achievement, and all give you more resources. It is very frustrating having worked your character up to become a powerhouse of output damage, only to have the boss clip you as soon as the fight starts. Roll as soon as you are allowed to move. That way, you avoid the first attack, and you get a better view of what the boss is planning. This is a classic example of a boss trying to destroy a no-damage attempt before it even starts. Give.
Is it? I mean, there's clearly... It clearly takes a little bit for that attack to reach you. I hope he means other examples.
Gifts upon recruitment. You should give your followers their necklace gift just as you indoctrinate them. It is easier than running around after your dwellers trying to hand out gifts. If you want to communicate with one of your followers, you can call them from within the confession booth. It is probably less efficient than running around and searching for the dweller, but it is less hassle. Gather plenty of gold coins before crusading. You are going to need to buy cards, hearts, followers, and search. Gold coins are something you can earn quite easily as you progress through the game, so you may as well spend them in the arenas to help make your runs a little more successful. You only need 200 or 300 coins to be safe. If you are running low on coins before a crusade, just go sell some of your surplus items. The selling chest is something you gain by default as you play the game. You have to collect the harvested food. When you upgrade to the Farmer Station 2, your cultists will harvest the food and place it in a box outside of the farming shed. You need to collect the feed your dwellers using the food you collect. I didn't know this. Also, later in the game, feed your dwellers using the food you collect from crusades, including feeding your dwellers grass. Buy food from the fishing NPC and you are essentially cutting out the need for fishing and farming altogether. You won't miss anything important. Once you get through the Ratau Knucklebones game, you will not miss anything that you don't want to, even if you complete the game and you are playing the endgame content. But
were there even credits when I first finished this? When the endgame was already available?
But you missed something like one of the Eyes of Witness, then they too will turn up during the endgame content. The only scenarios where you may miss something is if you are hunting for 100% completion through trophies or achievements. The questline with Midas can be tricky to complete even after the developers patched the associated bugs. I do discuss the Midas problem.
Yeah, I still haven't done that. I wonder if it bugged or because I didn't finish the endgame.
Later in this video. I will say that if you play the game naturally all the way through and into the end game content, you will likely pick up almost all of the trophies and achievements without really trying. Some cursors knock projectiles back. The Divine Guardian knocks projectiles back. See how the Divine
Guardian flicks projectiles. Oh, different one.
Guardian knocks projectiles back. See how the flurry of projectiles are returned to the boss. Since this curse also makes my character invincible, I should have taken this opportunity to run in and cause some damage while I had the chance.
Okay, that sounds perfect with Calamar then. I think that was the main issue I had with him. Or her, or whatever, Calamar. Yes.
I should have taken this opportunity to run in and cause some damage while I had the chance. This only applies to travelling projectiles. The ones spinning around posts cannot be knocked away. Try some of the other area of effect weapons against projectiles. For example, here the blast absorbs the projectiles so that my character is not damaged. Destroying the other area of effect weapons against projectiles. For example, here the blast absorbs the projectiles so that my character is not damaged. Destroying or moving buildings. After you have played the game for a while, you will unlock the Edit Buildings feature. It allows you to move and destroy buildings.
Not exactly
Here,
a while.
I move the decorative hay. Here, I destroy the decorations. Positioning follower sleeping bags. I personally put cultist beds at the bottom of the screen because later in the game you will need 20 of them in order to get the Flock of All trophy or achievement and to unlock the final boss. Down here I can keep them nicely arranged, plus they are out of sight and out of mind. The downside of having all your beds down here is that it takes the sick and elderly dwellers a long time to go to bed. Plus, until you unlock the grand shelter, you are going to have to keep repairing them. Build too many beds and shelter. You are going to have to keep repairing them. Build too many beds. Faith isn't a big deal for most of the game, but during the early period, losing faith can be annoying. If there are not enough beds for your followers, then they lose a little bit of faith. If you build too many beds, then they don't lose faith if some collapse, nor when you add new followers to your cult. Beds collapse at random even if they are not being used. So
It's pretty dumb that it takes faith immediately when the person who wouldn't have a bed joins. It's like, why doesn't it warn you, hey, you don't have a bed for this follower, are you sure you want to recruit him now? You know, it's been, what, this game came out like 2 years ago? I think.
check up
August 2022, wasn't it?
on them every now and again until you unlock and build the shared shelters and grand shelters, since those are the ones that don't fall down. Send sick followers to bed. If a cultist follower is ill, then you will see this symbol up here. You have to find your sick follower and send that person to bed. Over time, your follower will heal. Alternatively, you can unlock the use of the healing bay, where you may heal a sick individual in return for camellia flowers. Cooking food for your followers. Pick your foodstuffs and put them into a queue. Down here, it tells you the hotkey for cooking. In my case, it is triangle. Try to hit the green area. The green area spawns.
Okay, you could sort these by usefulness. Right, I mean, if it's too... put the more beginner-friendly ones at the beginning.
You will eventually get a kitchen. Cooking. How to work the refinery in the... Learn each enemy's attack. Running in and bashing away is a solid strategy that will get you through the early parts of the game, but later you may have more trouble. You will probably start relying on heavy attacks, relics, and curses. If things are becoming tricky, then try learning the enemy's attack patterns. Being able to anticipate their moves and then destroy them will make your crusade runs a little more efficient. Later in the game, as you rely on curses, relics, and heavy attacks, they do become quite powerful. For example, during this boss fight, I only use 5 curses, and they make short work of the boss. Build resource gatherers near the entrance. The central area is where you spend most of your time. Put your temple and cooking station nearby. Around the beginning of the game, have your refinery, mine, and lumber yard nearby too. Later in the game...
Why, so you get the stuff automatically? Right, no. The chest that gives you the resources automatically is always there, you can't move it.
most of your time. Put your temple and cooking station nearby. Around the beginning of the game, have your refinery, mine, and lumber yard nearby too. Later in the game, as you unlock more buildings, place them in more convenient locations. Things like,
Oh, well, if you do a sermon, they would come out and start working immediately if the stuff is next to the temple.
graves, mortuaries, the janitor's closet, can be put anywhere, so put them on the outskirts where you don't have to worry about them. I have already espoused my thoughts on where beds should be placed. Farms should also
Espoused?
be mostly out of the way. They are pretty labor-intensive to start with, but farms should also be mostly out of the way. They are pretty labor-intensive to start with, but after you unlock more upgrades, they will become much more autonomous. Farms, outhouses, seed storage and so forth can be placed in out-of-the-way locations because you only need to check up on them every few days. I thought this refinery setup was pretty convenient. When it comes to base layout, there is no right or wrong answer. Set up your base as you best feel suits your playing style. Right or wrong answer. Set up your base as you best feel suits your playing style. You will unlock most things without trying. You don't have to worry about unlocking all of the stuff in the game because to unlock, if you go into the game room, then your overall gaming experience will be much improved. Don't worry too much about cultists. They need faith, food, cleanliness, and so forth, but keeping them around is more of a side activity than a core part of the game. It is difficult to keep their faith up during the early game when you have very few ritual options and doctrines to help you. Yet, it doesn't matter if they dissent, die, or leave. There are plenty of them around to replenish your numbers. Allow your cultists to be an afterthought. Conduct a little cult.
How did that one die?
To replenish your numbers. Allow your cultists to dissent, die, or leave. There are plenty of them around to replenish your numbers. Allow your cultists to be an afterthought. Conduct a little cultist maintenance after each crusade, and you should be fine. Gather together a larger following when you are in the late game stages. As you progress, your dwellers will start to clean up after themselves, do their own cooking, farming, and so forth. During the late game, there are so many labor-saving buildings and features that maintaining a large following is no hassle at all. Does the game end?
Yes.
That maintaining a large following is no hassle at all.
23, yes.
Does the game end if all your cultists die? Yes, it will.
And that's why I have a negative review for this game on Steam, as much as I like it. Mainly.
If you manage to kill all of your cultists, then
No, okay, that is the main reason. If not for that, I would put it back to positive. People need to be warned of this sort of thing.
After a while, you will receive a message saying that if you do not get a new follower within 2 in-game days, then your game is over. Why, therefore, am I saying that you shouldn't worry about cultists? Because it actually took an awful lot of effort for me to kill off all of my cultists, especially in the early game. Even if you give them all poisoned meals, there is a 25% survival rate, added to which you get 2 in-game days in which to find new dwellers, which really is plenty of time. The only
Why do they even have this feature? Because I guess it kills 1/2 of the game. I mean, you won't be getting sermons and upgrading. You literally need all of them to be able to upgrade stuff, though. You need at least one, and if you just have one, it's gonna be slow as shit.
surefire way to lose intentionally is to starve your followers while repeatedly going into arenas and failing them. Though there is the modest threat of there being a game over, you can neglect your dwellers. The mechanic is only in place so that people cannot completely ignore their dwellers. If you wish, you can treat your cultist followers as an afterthought and still get through most of the game just fine. Dweller death insurance. If you are still unhappy with my notion that you should take
Dick and balls.
a casual attitude to your followers, then there is something you can do so that if all of your followers die, you still have a backup. All you have to do is ensure that at least one follower is left on the indoctrination stone. Speedrunners do this all the time. They do not indoctrinate followers until they need them to unlock doors. They queue them up and indoctrinate them whenever they are needed. That way, it doesn't matter to them if their followers die or leave. If the last follower you have left is a dissenter, then put that follower in prison. Whilst in there, your cultist doesn't need faith, cleanliness, or food. It is a very low-maintenance way of staving off a game over for several in-game days. Attacking resources yields
Or indefinitely even.
the same as harvesting. When you choose a very low in there, your cultist doesn't need faith, cleanliness, or food. It is a
Oh, I'm surprised they didn't patch that out.
very low-maintenance way of staving off a game over for several in-game days. Attacking resources yields the same as harvesting. When you choose a resource-filled area on a crusade, you miss out on tarot cards, chest openings, events, and so forth. However, you miss out on tarot cards, chest openings, events, and so forth. However, you do get resources without the threat of being killed. You can press and hold to harvest the resources, or without the threat of being openings, events.
I complain about one spelling error, and I go back on fucking 10 of these things.
And so forth. However, you do get resources without the threat of being killed. You can press and hold to harvest the resources, or you can attack the resources. Both yield the same amount of resources.
Did you know that? That's great.
Bodies auto-break upon chest arrival. This means that as a fight goes on, you don't need to waste your time running around and smashing corpses. You can wait until the chest falls, and then go smashing up things for extra resources. I circled the bodies just here, and boom, they explode into bones that you can collect. Several ways to recruit followers into your cult. Here is how you recruit more followers into your cult. Select them on the crusade map and recruit them directly. You can free them from heretics on your crusades. You can buy new followers from this spider thing known as Helob. Add an S to the front of Helob's name, and you get Shelob, the highly intelligent spider from the Lord of the Rings books and movies. Many of the bosses will convert into followers once they are defeated. Use the upgraded missionary building and have your followers return with a new recruit. Resurrecting is a pretty powerful tool. For example, if you level up one of your dwellers, you can resurrect that dweller over and over again. With this in mind, you have yourself dwellers.
Won't the resurrection crown, not that it matters on this place, make them permanently die though?
You can resurrect that dweller over and over again. With this in mind, you have yourself a very powerful last chance dweller ready to be sacrificed whenever you are taking down a very difficult boss. Once the job is done, return to your base ready for taking down a very difficult boss. Once the job is done, return to your base, resurrect the dweller, and continue on with the game, safe in the knowledge that the dweller you resurrected has the same level it had when it died. Keeping and killing dissenters. Quite often, it's a good idea to keep your dissenters. Some cultists have good traits that are worth keeping. Perhaps you have leveled up a follower that you don't want to lose. Imprison your dissenters if you really want to keep and that you don't want to lose.
How did that one turn into a dissenter before the meter?
Imprison your dissenters if you really want to keep and re-educate them. If you have dissenters that you don't want, or dissenters if you really want to keep and re-educate.
He really doesn't show faith in his cult for some reason.
Them. If you have dissenters that you don't want to keep, you can poison them, sacrifice them, ascend them, or you can use the murder function and kill them. Don't worry. Ascend them, or you can use the murder function and kill them. Don't worry if things like faith and or you can use the murder function.
Oh, I figured we'd see the third Iron Islander while he's dying or something.
And kill them. Don't worry if things like faith and food are low. Do what you can, but if it isn't enough and your dwellers start to dissent, throw them in prison so they cannot agitate the other dwellers, and then deal with them when you have time. Don't worry about stockpiling food. This is a holdover gaming style that comes from playing other RPG games. You may be tempted to save the best food for later, but there is honestly no point. You get lots of materials as you play through the game. You can buy the fancy fish from the fishing NPC, and if stocks run low, you can still feed your followers on meals made from berries or collected grass. Your dwellers will be just fine. There is even a doctrine from...
Sorry, I got lost. I was thinking about something somebody told me a while ago. It was like, oh, she asked me, oh, you're trying to stream Cold Lamb, but I could already finished it. I did, but I'm doing, I don't know what I said because I don't remember saying I was doing this for my last playthrough. She said, oh, because it's a sex update. You said it yourself. Somebody else in the server said, GTA 6 comes after the sex update for Cold Lamb. And I said, yes, that's 100% straight facts. And it's because of that update and because of the Permadeath, which honestly I really wish that I stayed.
berries or collected grass. Your dwellers will be just fine. There is even a doctrine that removes the negative effects of eating grass food, which makes feeding your dwellers even easier. Food can rot after...
But not you.
3 days. Oddly, if you have had food on the floor for 3 days, then something has gone terribly wrong. Your cultists should have happily eaten it by now. Nevertheless, letting food rot is no big deal. You should have plenty of other ingredients, and it is easy to clean up the mess. If food stocks are running low, then focus a little more on farming the next time you visit your base. Alternatively, you could go on a crusade and gather up some food to bring home. Low food stocks, rotting food, it's not really a big deal. It is a temporary problem that you can quickly fix. Taking a long crusade. If you decide to take a long crusade, then try to
Sounds like a terrible idea on Penitence.
complete it within 3 in-game days. That is roughly 24 minutes. 3 in-game days is often the shortest amount of time required before things start getting ugly in your base. Do your usual cleanup and maintenance before you go. Cook too many meals so that your followers have something to eat while you are away. If you have the kitchen, then queue up some meals before you leave, and your followers will feed themselves. Your cultists may become sick from the accumulated mess
Well, just build the boom station by now.
that's left behind, but a bit of bed rest and the usual maintenance should...
This video was 6 months ago. I think that exists. Oh yeah, they showed it earlier in the video.
should fix them right up. This isn't an issue later in the game when you have outhouses and janitor's closets to help you keep your base hygienic. It is true that some of your followers will overeat if there is lots of food around, which seems like a waste, but keep in mind that food materials are common, especially if you have a nice farming setup, so wastage isn't a problem. Heavy attacks break through shields. After you unlock heavy attacks, you will start to encounter enemies who can...
Okay, true. I do have to go to the bathroom. It'll be a bit. I really wish I could cut this part for YouTube. I mean, I guess I technically could, but it's gonna take a while for it to process later. Alright, see you in a moment.
You have a nice farming setup, so wastage isn't a problem. Heavy attacks break through shields. After you unlock heavy attacks, you will start to encounter enemies who carry shields. Using R1 or RB, you can activate a heavy attack that will break through the shield, allowing you to damage the
Oh, gauntlets. I really like the gauntlets too.
enemy. Heavy attacks and curses become a big part of the late game areas, so start getting to grips with them right away. Here you see a leveled up curse tearing through a mini-boss. The claw's heavy attack is one of the most hazardous to use. It needs to charge and has a The claw's heavy attack is one of the most hazardous to use. It needs to charge and has a very short range. It is best used for enemies who are larger and are not as easily knocked away. The hammer's heavy attack has the same range as the claw's heavy attack, but has a far slower swing, which is compensated for with a much more powerful strike. The charging wind-up for this attack gives you a clearer indication of when the weapon will strike, making it easier to use than the claw's heavy attack. A clearer indication of when the weapon will strike, making it easier to use than the claw's heavy attack. Both the sword's heavy attack and the dagger's heavy attack are perfect for tactically minded players. The sword and the dagger's heavy attack are perfect for tactically minded players. The sword.
What did the sword's heavy attack do? I remember the dagger through daggers.
Sword has a far shorter range than the dagger, but this is balanced by the sword having a far wider margin for error. The axe's heavy attack is a killer, especially if you hit the enemy on the outgoing thrust and on the incoming return. You can also aim for maximum precision. This is balanced by the fact that you are completely vulnerable while the weapon is charging and flying. The dagger, when used correctly with clever timing and good spacing, the heavy attack can inflict massive damage on larger enemies from a relatively middle distance away. Use the elderly in rituals. When your followers become old, they can attend rituals and sermons, but they cannot do much else. However, they are pretty useful fodder for rituals. Even a simple sacrifice can be used to earn more upgrade points. Though elderly people are valuable in our society, in this game there is very little they can do besides attend sermons and being part of rituals. If you allow them to die naturally of old age, then you can save the corpse for later, you can turn it into compost, you can cut it up for meat and so forth. Save the corpse for later, you
Save the corpse for later. How? What for?
can turn it into compost, you can cut it up for meat and so forth. That's all fine and good when you're in your base, but if your elderly follower dies while you are on a crusade, then it is both going to affect the cleanliness of your base and the mood of your cult followers. Perhaps if you are planning a long crusade, you may sacrifice your elderly dwellers before you leave. Don't forget, you can always resurrect your more valuable followers at a later date, so it's not even as if
You can?
you lose much when you sacrifice an elderly follower. Give blessings in a crowd for maximum effect. When you give a blessing, completing the fishing quest. The fishing NPC will give you a quest asking for certain types of fish. All of the required fish can be found in the fishing area next to the NPC. If you are really having trouble getting one of the fish, then consider getting the Ritual of Ocean Bounty, and then going to the options and turning on autofish and then doing lots of fishing. You will probably pick up the fishes you need rather quickly. Contrary to what you may have read online, it is possible to get all of the fish without using the Ritual of the Ocean's Bounty. It is just mildly less convenient. The gold coin version of paying to win. There are no pay-to-win mechanics in this game, but there are ways you can use your in-game currency to drastically improve your chances of winning. You can use your
Oh, okay. So no, I can just break the bags when I go to that shrine.
currency to resummon a weapon or curse when you start each area. And if you still don't like your options, you can teleport out and try again. Though I would say if you still don't like your options, you can teleport out and try again. Though I would suggest that you run through with the weapons you get, because each crusade offers numerous opportunities to change your weapon, and you will likely find upgraded ones as you go. After receiving your tarot card from a
If it's too shit, I'll just leave. Maybe if it's a hammer, I should leave.
vendor, you can buy an additional tarot card in exchange for coins. Since coins are infinitely earnable, but your time is precious, buying an additional tarot card is always worth it. Once the card stand recharges, you can buy again from a different vendor.
Enemies have a chance to drop a fish is a very stupid tarot card. I do not want to unlock that. That reminds me, let's look at the Fisherman quest and see what it gives. Oh, you unlock buying the fishes, okay. Talisman pieces. Oh, I don't give a crap, because they're all bad. They're all terrible. The endgame ones are worth it. Because the shopkeeper sells all types of fish.
Acquire the once the card stand recharges, you can buy again from a different vendor. Acquire the Hunger Crown recharges, you can buy again from a different vendor. Acquire the Hunger
Buy again?
Crown perk by exchanging a boss's heart for the perk. You may then cook a nice meal, have your character eat the meal, and it gives you a blue shield heart.
1 sec.
That you can take into the next arena. Keep in mind that if you have a kitchen, you won't be able to eat the meals being produced. You will have to build your own cooking fire and make your own meal. When you die during a crusade run, you can sacrifice one of your followers in order to continue your run.
Cannot.
Sacrificing followers with high levels and the ones to whom you are married will offer the best benefits. Don't forget that you can still resurrect your sacrificed dweller when you get back from your crusade. You can buy hearts from the heart vendor. This is another reason why you should go into crusades with at least
I think I haven't used this once.
200 or 300 coins to spend. Ways to return home without dying. If you take an arena run and destroy a boss, you may then return back to your base. The only other alternative besides dying is to unlock the
You know, if the boss is too hard, I could just retreat to the base, couldn't I? Of course, I'll be vulnerable while doing it.
Omnipresent Crown ability. This is a perk that allows you to hold.
If it's the only way, why did you call the section ways plural?
R2 or the right trigger during your mission so that you may warp home with only a partial loss of your resources.
Let's be honest, I'll just forget the future exists.
Considering the fact that health can often be found throughout crusades, the omnipresent function is only suitable for people who are playing on the hardest difficulty. Don't be so quick to give up on arena runs. This is one of the biggest mistakes that even advanced players make. Unless you are on the hardest difficulty, then the game is going to offer you ways to refill your health. If your health is low, especially in the starting arenas, then the chances of a health drop from perhaps a chest, a room, a vendor, or even in the foliage will increase quite significantly. You are going to find health in or even in the foliage. Chances of a health drop from perhaps a chest, a room, a vendor, or even in the foliage will increase quite significantly. You are going to find health in foliage, and there are even rooms dedicated to giving you your health back. So strongly consider powering through your run and even risking being killed, because there is still a good chance you will complete the area. The hit and run boss method. Many of the bosses are built to punish people who run up and bash away at them. In many cases, you can hit the boss twice and then run or roll away to avoid its counterattacks. Once you have learned a boss's attack
I feel like I used to do that.
patterns, they become a lot easier to defeat. Using the hit and run method plus curses and demons is the most efficient way to take down a boss without taking damage yourself. Use demons to help you complete the bosses. You can build a demon summoning pit and you can upgrade it to allow you to take up to 3 demons into each crusade. The demons are made from your cult followers. Once the crusade is over, win or lose, your follower is returned to you with the tiredness debuff. Also, when you are looking to upgrade to level 3, this is spider's silk and not, as I believed, a wrapped dead body. Meditate to
Wait, that makes sense actually. I can see why he means that now.
spider's silk and not, as I believed, a wrapped dead body.
I feel like something told me earlier that was silk though. I can't remember what it was.
Meditate to speed up time. Trading. Fix the lighthouse by putting wood in the stove. The answer to this quest isn't killing the mushroom quest givers. While you are running around in arenas and completing crusades, you will come across some mushroom characters. They give you the mushroom quest that allows you to visit Sozo, who eventually gives you a great ritual that allows you to do almost anything you want without any loss of faith from your followers. Get ahead on the mission by killing the mushroom quest givers themselves. They drop mushrooms that you can hand over when you meet Sozo. Some curses slow down time. When you are charging or aiming one of your cursors, some of them will slow down time a little bit to give you a wider window of opportunity.
Oh, okay, I didn't notice I was too into this.
See how the enemies move slower as I aim. Fighting in Cult of the Lamb may seem a little frenetic at times, but you don't have to rush as much when you are charging or aiming a curse. Smash up the NPC locations you visit. Don't worry about being polite in NPC locations in arenas. Quite often, if you wreck up the place, you get extra materials for your efforts. Plus, just like killing the mushroom quest givers in the arena, there doesn't seem to be a downside to smashing things up. The only mild exception to this rule is when you meet Rakshasa. If you attack the large snail, then the NPC will become angry and will fight you. If you defeat Rakshasa, then it unlocks the massive monster shrine, which in turn unlocks the monster follower form. You can still buy from Rakshasa even after winning the battle, so in terms of gameplay mechanics, there is no loss to you. You have to pray at the monster shrine that you build. It wouldn't allow me to do it right away. It eventually let me pray during the night, around a day or so later, so that I could receive the monster form. Destroy the big stone shrines. If you destroy the big stone shrines, you get their devotion and some stone. However, if you have already defeated the big boss in that area, you can destroy these shrines and they will spawn a teleportation pad. These pads allow you to refight the boss again. This is handy if you want to get the achievement or trophy for defeating a boss without taking damage. It allows you to return to bosses later in the game when you are further leveled up and more powerful.
I was wondering if that would count.
To be clear, when you teleport, you are not skipping to the end of that arena. You are teleporting to another area where you may refight the primary boss of that area. Hitting training dummies for fervor.
You know, I could just fight the bosses again in my endgame save.
Training dummies can be destroyed for lumber, but it is not worth it for how many whacks they take. However, after unlocking curses, you can use them to top up your fervor by whacking them repeatedly. If you are wearing the golden fleece, then training dummies do not increase your damage output. However, if you hit the corpse bags in the relic rooms, then they will increase your golden fleece's output damage.
I probably knew that, but I forgot.
In-game location clues and markers. If you see weapons hanging, then the room holds a weaponsmith. A long corridor indicates a boss. If you see stars and planets hanging, then the upcoming room is a tarot card reader. These relic dolls mean that you are entering a relic vendor's room. The fox spawn point appears in these 4 places: here, 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 and here. The spawn point.
Oh man, that one is so freaking hidden. I want to go get that one right now on my endgame save.
Point's marker is a green moon shape. Aim to visit at night, since the cloaked fox doesn't appear. Is a green moon shape. Aim to visit at night, since the cloaked fox doesn't appear during the daylight hours. Defeat a boss without taking damage. Doing so is not necessary unless you are going for the trophy or achievement. You receive extra resources if you defeat a boss without taking damage. You can fight a previously defeated boss if you defeat a defeat a boss without taking damage. Doing so is not necessary unless you are going for the trophy or achievement. You receive extra resources if you defeat a boss without taking damage. You can fight a previously defeated boss by destroying the praying statue and teleporting to the boss of that particular area. If you are struggling to beat bosses without taking damage, try
Ooh, what's that last one?
experimenting with some of the fleeces to find a method that suits your playing style. The fleeces are situational tools. Stick with your regular fleece in most cases, especially if you are struggling to complete an arena. All of these special fleeces in most cases, especially if you are struggling to complete an arena. All of these special fleeces have a very steep downside that may easily wreck your crusade run. The most famous fleece is the golden fleece because it allows you.
It's a good fleece. That's like the only holy talisman I'd spend, but of course it's gonna make the run way too hard. I'm playing on Permadeath here.
To build up a no damage bonus that makes the game supposedly much easier.
I might, if I die on Permadeath, I might go for that next time. If I even do it.
However, the downside,
I think I'll just try this one and I'll move on.
is that it doubles the damage you take, which means a few unlucky shots, especially from projectiles, and it is crusade over. If at any point you are struggling to get through a certain area, go back to using the regular fleece, and the area you are struggling with will likely become a lot easier. Color-coded and marked for death. When I indoctrinate a follower with some awful traits, I change that follower's color to red. That way, when I am asked to sacrifice a follower, or I need a follower for a dangerous mission, I know I don't mind losing the red ones. If you wish, you could do the opposite and color code the ones you want to keep, marry, or resurrect. Take note that my character is still married when the dweller is resurrected. It still has the same high level, and it still has its necklace since I didn't bother to collect it. Brainwashing before a missionary mission. When you send a follower out on a mission, there are various factors that affect your followers' chances of success. If you have brainwashed your citizens, then the chances of them completing a mission goes up quite a bit. If you send followers who have high levels, then they are more likely to survive. But if you send lower-leveled dwellers, then you don't mind so much if you lose them. Mines and lumberyards expire. A single dweller will work in a lumberyard or mine until it expires after producing 50 pieces of wood or stone. Later in the game, you unlock the upgraded versions that have more storage capacity. The opening tutorial suggests that you have to assign workers to various tasks, but this is simply not true. Somebody will start working in your mine or your lumberyard as soon as they have nothing better to do. Farming and working for money. Once you are able to sell your items, you can, if you wish, tend to a lot of farms and build lots of mines and lumberyards and sell your materials. However, unless you are playing on the hardest difficulty, then there is little to be gained from doing this. Going on a crusade, even through an area that you have already completed, will yield far more coins per hour than farming and selling. The most profitable saleable
What do you mean about hardest difficulty? What?
item is probably dweller meat. You can pick up new dwellers for free or for very low costs, and even though the selling price of the meat drops the more you sell, their lofty prices will recover in just a few days. The fastest late-game money-making method is via the Ritual of Enrichment. That there is over 1,200 coins with just 20 followers. The sickness symbol for 1,200 coins with just 20 followers.
Okay.
The sickness symbol tells you there are messes to clean up. Later in the game, you get toilet facilities. Mushroom's Ritual gives you license to do anything. You earn
Really don't want
the brainwashing ritual by completing Sozo's quest. There are a few potential downsides, but this isn't really a ritual that you will need to use so often. It means you may murder your followers, butcher them, and do whatever morally questionable thing you wish without any loss of faith. Mutilate at night. Sacrifice during the day, but murder and mutilate at night because you're night. Sacrifice during the day, but murder and mutilate at night because your followers don't lose faith if they are asleep while you are murdering and cutting up dead bodies. Harvest enough times and get the Warwicker's right fist. It seems to spawn later in the game, obviously after unlocking relics. You can get necklaces back. If a dissenter dies in some way, you can get your jewelry gifts back. For example, after harvesting the meat from a dead follower, the gift appears on the floor where the follower was lain. You do not get your other gifts back, just the necklace that you gave your dweller. If a dweller is buried or composted with a necklace, it is still on them when they are resurrected. When you wrap a dead body for burial or composting, you can loot the corpse and get the necklace back. Have 3 refineries for convenience. If you build My thoughts on farm setup. Don't worry too much about getting the perfect farm right away.
By the way, if you want to know how I did that, press Control and then press the left arrow key to go back 1 chapter or the right one to go forward 1 chapter. I'll show again.
Because you can My thoughts on farm setup. Don't worry too much about getting the perfect farm right away because you can move and edit your buildings and farms as you go. There is no right answer. You can set up your farms as you wish. Here is how I set up my farms. I have the farmer station here in the middle, the windmill behind that, and the scarecrow behind that. My thinking is that if I put my farming plots in these areas here, they intersect within the blue line spaces you see here, giving the plots the benefits of all 3 structures. My suggestion is that you do not go nuts with farming.
Wonder if it stacks.
You gather lots of meats and materials while crusading. Queue up meals before long crusades. During the early game, if you want to push forwards with longer crusades, you can cook a bunch of food and leave it on the... Should you open arena doors early? If you wish, you can build up your cult to 12 members and unlock the doors very early. The game gives you this option, however, I would strongly advise against it. Having arena doors unlocked early seems to skew the difficulty curve in a very unpredictable way. You will hit portions of early rooms where enemies are brutally fast, tanky, or dangerous. It becomes frustrating dying so frequently so early in the game. Also, even if you build up 20 followers, you cannot open the final door until you have defeated the primary bosses in the other arenas.
Oh, so there's no point.
Food-related quests. Eating quests will auto-complete. Take a look at this example. It wants me to feed a bowl of poop to one of my followers. I make the poop meal, and notice how the required follower is the one who runs over and eats it. You don't have to tell the quest-related dweller to eat the grassy gruel. The mission completes automatically once you make the meal. Even if this were not the case.
For some reason, he's thinking to... He thinks you have to press on the black end of the bar.
Time freezes when you interact with your followers, so you could stop and talk to the target and direct them to the quest-related meal. But in my experience, this has never been necessary. Cult of the Lamb Knucklebones, how
You really could tell them I didn't know.
to play and win. Your overall score has to be higher than that of your opponent. If you put a number down in one column, and that number matches your opponent in your opponent's column, then their number is destroyed. 5s and 6s, whilst letting them keep their lower numbers, the 1s, 2s, and 3s. Do this because their lower numbers do not add up to a high number. Put down a number in one column that matches your opponent's in their column, and their number is destroyed. This works the other way too. Your opponent can destroy your numbers. If you have 2 or 3 of the same kind of number in the same column, then it doubles or triples the scores for the numbers you've just put down. Try to put doubles and triples into columns where your opponent has already filled its column. That way, there is no chance that your opponent will place down a number and destroy your double or triple. Let your opponent clog their boards with low-scoring numbers while you try your best to maintain higher numbers on your board. Try to end the game while you are winning. For example, if you are winning and your opponent is close to filling its board, then allow your opponent to fill its board and end the game. Perhaps the best advice is, as mentioned earlier, to allow your opponents to fill up a column and then stack your higher numbered trebles and doubles in the opposite column. It is the only way to be sure that your opponent cannot destroy your higher number combos. You can resurrect anybody, almost. If your follower dies of old age or was sacrificed, poisoned, buried, harvested, composted, etc., you can still bring back your follower using the resurrection ritual. Your followers will also retain their level. The resurrection ritual is also handy if you have recruited a boss with a special trait, but you need to kill that follower to get the trophy or achievement. Their level. The resurrection ritual is also handy if you have recruited a boss with a special trait, but you need to kill that follower to get the trophy or achievement. You can resurrect almost any of your followers. However, you cannot get them back if they dissent and then leave. You cannot resurrect the ones
Apparently you can now.
you sacrifice to Midas when he makes gold statues out of them. You sacrifice to Midas when he makes gold statues out of them. And the followers you sacrifice to the doors during the endgame are also lost forever. Leveling up followers to become better demons. Leveling up your followers is good for several reasons, and the best of those reasons is that they become better demons. If a dweller has a high level, then as a demon they have more powerful buffs and attacks. Take a look at some of these tasty late-game stats. Sirius here is level 11 and has 11 stats in melee. Padme here has 15 for health drops, and Seymour has 12 stats in explosions. Another Padme for health drops, and Seymour has 12 stats in explosions. Another Padme here is at level 21 and has an awesome 21 projectile stat. Super Dweller here is level 13 and has 13 stats in Fervor Collection. The higher your dwellers level up, the more effective they are on the battlefield. If you find the Roman numerals annoying, you can go to the settings here and turn them off. You cannot declare the same forgotten doctrine twice. This one is for the 100% completionists. During the post-game period, you can pick up the doctrines that you didn't pick up during your primary first playthrough, and you will be happy to learn that you don't have to keep track of the doctrines you have and haven't got. The game only allows you to choose between the doctrines that you don't already own. Here, during the post-game period, I am unlocking the doctrines in Law and Order, the ones that I didn't pick while I was playing the base game. Steal the gold after using the tree. When you come across the weird money tree in the arena, use it as many times as you can until it says it is recharging. Then go around and smash up the area to steal its money. If you steal its money beforehand, then it gets mad and stops working. Steal its money beforehand, then it gets mad and stops working. The Dark and Light necklaces. During the
Spoiler about this one.
game period, you may receive a light or dark necklace. These are one-time necklaces that you give as a gift to a dweller. You then sacrifice that dweller and you get Aeum for the dark necklace and Baal for the light necklace. You cannot resurrect the follower that you sacrificed. So make sure you give these necklaces to some of your least desirable dwellers. If you are feeling lucky, and no spoilers, then turn Aeum and Baal into demons and take them on crusades with you. Dwellers. If you are feeling lucky, and no spoilers,
Oh, right.
then turn Aim and Ball into demons and take them on crusades with you. Give to demons and take feeling lucky, and no spoilers, then
Oh, they have special effects, I think.
then turn Aim and Ball into demons and take them on crusades with you. Giving your favorite dweller the Immortal necklace. During the endgame period, get the no damage trophies later in the game. If you really want the trophies or achievements for taking down the big bosses without taking any damage during the fight, then wait until later in the game when your weapons and curses have been leveled up. Here I am redoing the Hecate boss to get the no damage trophy, and my curse is at level 19. I sliced through the boss with no trouble at all. Can we talk about Midas? If you are going for the trophies or achievements, then you may notice that the Shakedown trophy or achievement is marked as ultra rare. This is because it is a hassle to get, and for the longest time it was bugged. What happens is that you meet Midas
Okay, you might want to watch it. Let's put
trophy or achievement is marked as ultra rare. This is because it is a hassle to get, and for the longest time it was bugged. What happens is that you meet Midas normally as you go through the game, and it unlocks Midas's cave. However, after this point, if you were to go back to Darkwood Forest, you may meet Midas again, and you are mugged for a certain amount of your coin. This then happens again in Anchor Deep,
all of it.
and finally in the Silk Cradle. For the longest time, I had Midas spawn in Darkwood Forest, but never in Anchor Deep or the Silk Cradle. I was labouring under the misapprehension that because I had finished the game and completed the endgame content, that somehow Midas wouldn't spawn. During all of my playthroughs, Midas appeared in the fighting areas that have the sword symbol, or in the final area where you encounter the boss. I couldn't remember if Midas had spawned in Darkwood Forest or in Anchor Deep or the Silk Cradle, so I just kept cycling through them until eventually all of the spawns occurred. Midas appeared where he should, and I eventually got the trophy. Mild spoiler, the Immortal Recruit. You are given the opportunity to
Yep.
recruit the one who waits, who is the primary boss of the main game. When recruited, the character is immortal, so you don't have to worry about the follower dying of old age. If you have got the related One Who Waits trophy or achievement, which is the trophy for killing the final boss, then instead you may kill the One Who Waits follower, which gives the trophy for. If you have got the related One Who Waits trophy or achievement, which is the trophy for killing the final boss, then instead you may kill the One Who Waits follower, which gives you the trophy or achievement and also a decorative shrine to mark your achievement. You may then resurrect the One Who Waits follower so that you have an immortal dweller for as long as you like.
Me again.
Pat the dog is not an exploit. You can choose the form
How is that not an exploit?
of your followers, and one of the forms is a dog. You are able to pat the dog, which gives an additional splash of follower loyalty. Since you can choose the dog form, there is nothing stopping you from turning every new recruit into a dog.
How is that
You
not an
may
exploit?
therefore enjoy this dog patting loyalty perk with all your followers. The reason it isn't an exploit in my opinion is because, in terms of building follower loyalty, this is probably one of the weakest and most least
Does it make the other ones also gain loyalty? Because that could be easily abusable.
efficient ways of doing so. There are several other tools, doctrines, rituals that you can use to build loyalty more quickly and more efficiently. Mild exploit, multiple offering statues. Place a bunch of them out of the way somewhere and collect from them after each arena mission or after enough time has passed. They are pretty much infinite resource
it does
creators.
sound like,
They refill more quickly if you have more followers, so this is only a mild exploit at best. The necklace menu has a second page. For the longest time, I had no idea that the necklace menu had a second page. I couldn't understand where the new necklaces were going, so I learned to live without them. If you wish to give a new necklace to one of your followers as a gift and you can't find it on the menu, then check to see if there is a second page. Have I missed anything? Yes, quite a few things, but they are all things that you can discover by yourself, such as giving the snail shells to the snail statues, and the overall goal of the cloaked fox, and a variety of other little discoverables. Since this is a tips video rather than a guide, I have left plenty for you to discover on your own without sacrificing the quality or relevance of these tips. Cult of the Lamb is a good game. In so many games, you are often given perks for being good and perks for being bad. In most cases, it is a binary choice with very little effect on the overall gameplay experience, except at the end when your good or bad decisions change the ending. Cult of the Lamb goes in a slightly different direction. There are clearly very evil choices you can make, and clearly very good choices you can make, but neither intersects in a way that rewards or punishes the moral choice. In almost every case, the good or evil choices are simply game mechanics that work towards a certain end. They affect everything from building loyalty to fishing more efficiently. Even though the cult is supposed to be evil, the game doesn't encourage or reward you for being good or evil. The biggest reason why I enjoy this game is a little more abstract. I like the game because any form of pressure, especially time pressure, is all self-imposed. If you wish, you can go through each arena, taking your...
This is what I wanted when I was playing the first region again. It just skips it. I don't like that. I wish I could choose. I wish anybody could choose.
Time as you go, and the negative effects on your base are pretty minimal. On the other hand, you could churn through the arenas very quickly. Effects on your base are pretty minimal. On the other hand, you could churn through the arenas very quickly, trying your best to unlock the most powerful weapons as early as possible. If you wish, you can build a very large to unlock the most powerful weapons as early as possible. If you wish, you can build a very large, well-organized and very structured base, or you can build anywhere and create a mess. The effects on the overall gameplay experience are pretty minimal. Despite being an arena fighting game, it has many similarities with a make-your-own-fun casual game. This brings me to another point about the game that I enjoy, and that is its lack of grind. I know some reviewers have complained that the game is grind-tastic, but again, I feel that this is self-imposed. I can run through the game, grind up levels, build big farms, create powerful followers, and beat the game. Or...
Okay, but, reviewers, you said?
The game is grind...
Yeah, but a lot of things streamline this. The reviews were still valid.
Supposed fighting game, and beat the game. Or through the game, grind up levels, build big farms, create powerful followers, and beat the game. Or I can grind almost nothing at all and still beat the game. In my opinion, the grind is built into the game, but it is mostly optional. Most of what you need will come to you as you play the game. There is no real downside to screwing up. Even in the arenas, if you lose, you only lose a portion of the materials that you earned. You don't lose anything that you already own. Most of the things in the game are very difficult to miss. You find as you play that you get new stuff at a very fast and consistent rate. Around 2/3 of the way into the game, you will discover that almost everything has been unlocked organically by simply playing the game as intended. As I think back, the things I like about this game are the things that it doesn't do. For example, when I build a structure, I don't have to wait in-game hours for it to build. I am pleased that the game doesn't make me search for discoverables. In fact, I only had to search for 2 discoverables in the entire game.
I could not find the moon icon on this one on my own.
There's the one here behind the gold coins, and then the crab running around in the entire game. There's the one here behind the gold coins, and then the crab running around here. The developers could have easily made this game one of those where you have to search around inch by inch to find a variety of collectible nonsense, and I'm very pleased that they didn't. I am happy that there aren't any management menus. I don't want UI screens of boring text with follower stats, times to completion, and so forth.
Why not have that in, though?
I play these games to play. I don't want to feel as if I'm doing my taxes. I am super happy that they didn't put checkpoints into arenas, because that would have made the game a lot less exciting.
And a lot easier.
And it would have removed the need for the second chance revival, which I think is one of the better mechanics in the game. The DLC did go down the grindathon route, but I think it's a fair option for people who cannot get enough of the game and simply wanted more.
Why do I have to kill the same bishops again?
I think Cult of the Lamb is a very good game. Thank you, Monster Massive and Devolver Digital.
So that was it for this stream. I should come back to this in a moment. See you then.